What's up everyone, Nathan Larsen here with another video for you home studio musicians and artists. In this video we're taking a look at Logic Pro. I'm going to be showing you how you can use the built-in strings in Logic to create some really great and fantastic sounds. So the first thing I want to say is that I've been using sampled string libraries for quite a while. I think I was 19 years old when I bought my first sample library from Native Instruments because at that time I was doing quite a bit more music for like film scoring type music. But I recently was working on a video and a track where I am only using Logic plugins and Logic MIDI instruments to produce the entire thing, and I wanted to have some strings in it. And so I was curious to see how good the strings were in Logic, because I remember when I first got started with Logic, the strings were absolutely terrible. In fact, Alchemy didn't exist, pitch flex or flex pitch didn't even exist. A lot of that stuff was not a part of Logic when I first got it. So Logic has improved a tremendous amount in the last many years. So here about a week ago, I was experimenting with some of the stringed instruments built into Logic, and I was really impressed. So I've only done a little bit of dabbling. So I actually wanted to use this video a little bit as an opportunity for me to learn a little bit about how to use these stringed instruments a little better, but also show you what kinds of things I'm looking at from the perspective of having used a lot of stringed instruments from Native Instruments all the way to East-West Quantum Leap, and what different things we can do to make these samples sound as good as possible, what things work really well and what things don't work really well. So let's just go ahead and jump straight into Logic. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna wanna do is make sure that we open up, I'm just gonna open up an empty channel strip via MIDI, and then you can go over here. You can see I haven't even downloaded everything in here. But we're gonna go to Orchestral. Actually, we're gonna go to Studio Strings. That's what I've been experimenting with a little bit more. So Studio Strings, they actually sampled all of these instruments, very similar to how you would get some of the samples out of like Native Instruments Session Strings Pro. I'm actually gonna show you a comparison of how these stack up to something like Session Strings Pro. And so when you open this up right away, you can see that you can choose individual instrument groupings. So you can choose obviously cello, double bass, viola, violin 1, violin 2. So what I'm gonna do is just, let's go ahead and open up Studio Violin 1. First things first, let's just go ahead and take a look at what this actually looks like. So we're gonna go over here and open up the instrument itself. And it's got a very simple layout. So I've already got my MIDI keyboard on. Okay, and you'll notice that with the Violin 1, you're not gonna be able to go below G, below middle C. So that's me, I'm clicking the F key and nothing is happening. That's because that G is actually the open string, it's the lowest pitch. So that is realistic, which is good. So the first thing you want to look at is just the whole layout. So monophonic mode, you can turn that on or off. So monophonic mode is off when you just open it up, which means I can play a chord. Dynamics via CC, that's going to be via control, is off automatically, which means that right now it's going to go completely off of velocity, how hard you actually play the note. So I just barely touched it. Played it quite a bit harder. Dynamics on, you can actually use your mod control, your mod wheel. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that on because I like having a lot of control with the mod wheel. And it's also going to show you the last played articulation, which is sustain. Then we've got our cutoff. This is going to be a low pass filter. So this is going to, as it's 100%, there's no reduction happening. But as let's say we do a 50% reduction. So that's removing the top end. I suppose if you wanted to do that, you could. Volume, it's going to be set to -60 dB. So if you need a little bit of a volume boost, you can do that. I don't see why you would. You got a resonance, attack, and release. So the attack is at 0%, which means as soon as I play a note, let's just go ahead and you're gonna hear it. Let's put this up to 50%. Okay, the attack at 50%, it's actually going to kind of fade in. The release is at 20%. If we put that at 0, it's gonna like shut it off immediately, like close it. If we put the release to 100%, it's going to hang on for quite a while. So let's just put it back at 20%. You can kind of mess around with these as you want. Now let's get into the fun stuff, which is the articulation. We've got the articulation bar up here. If it's hidden, then you just need to open it up. And you've got a lot of different articulations. I'm not going to play through all of them. You can certainly do that. I'm going to kind of point out the main ones that I think are important. So sustain is definitely a big one. Staccato and spiccato are really good. So the differences between spiccato and staccato. Staccato means the string player is actually going to keep the bow on the string the entire time, whereas spiccato, with a P, spiccato, they're actually going to remove the bow from the string, so it's going to basically bounce off. So listen to this. This is staccato. Okay. Now listen to spiccato. It's a lot shorter. Has a little bit more kind of punch and attack to it. The falls, the scoops, the accented sustain, all this stuff, again, you can kind of play around with it. I never use this stuff. I just don't do it. Pizzicato is definitely one you're going to want to use. That's plucking a string. I love that. On the G, it's actually the open note, and you can tell it's the open note. The trill, let's just do that. You might use that if you're doing something cinematic. And then tremolo, I love the tremolo. I love tremolo. We could definitely use the tremolo for sure. So this is, again, this is just taking a look at the violin one. Let's just open up a couple more. Let's just do a full orchestra here, basically. So let's just go to Studio Strings, Studio Violin 2. Let's make this one viola. This is actually how I would oftentimes do this. I would just open it up and there you go. So now we've got our violin 1, violin 2, viola, cello, and double bass. So double bass, let's go ahead and open this up. Dynamics, I want to have that on. So again, the first thing I'm going to want to go in and do is turn all these so it's got dynamics via CC. So that way I can control the dynamics with my wheel. I think I already did it for the double bass. Yep, there we go. Yeah. Double bass, I don't use it a whole lot, to be honest with you, but I'm gonna kind of write something out here. Really simple to give you guys an idea of what things we can kind of get away with and what things work and what things don't work so great. So what I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna write something and then I'm gonna write a string part and show you kind of how I'm gonna do it in the process I'm going through to get that done. So I'm just gonna open up a piano because I think it's really great to have a piano with strings. I'm just gonna use the Giant's Native Instruments. I absolutely love using the Giant. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm actually gonna go ahead and track just a little bit of a song that I'm actually working on right now. Let's do that much. It's a little fast. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna start with a really simple, like really high strings, and then I'll kind of bring stuff in as we go. So the first thing is I wanna have a sustain patch going on. Now, one of the things I noticed, there's not a whole lot of reverb. So, and you can see here, there's a compressor on this, there's some EQ, the Fat FX is on there, which is kind of like a multi-effects plugin. I'm not gonna mess with any of that because I just don't want to. But the buses, I'm gonna increase, this one is a concert hall. Yeah, I want some more reverb. Reverb is a fantastic tool when it comes to strings. If you wanna make your strings sound bigger, more rich, then add more reverb for sure. So let's just go ahead and come up with something. So this is gonna be a more sustain kind of a deal. So I'm just gonna do this like octave thing. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna do the octave. We'll start way down here. 4. All right, that's cool. I like that. So let's just make this eighth notes. I don't think I did anything else. So the first thing I'm gonna probably do is turn this down. This is where cutoff might be nice, because it is a little harsh. That's why. So it's kind of boosted some of the high ends here. So let's take some of those highs out. There we go. I like that. So let's make that the viola. Da, 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 da. Let's turn that way down. It's a little too loud. So let's pan some of the stuff to make it sound a little more like it actually would. Let's do it right there. Second time. Oop. Okay, so kind of have a cool little thing going on there. Okay, so then one of the things you'll need to notice about when you're quantizing these stringed instruments, a lot of times the attack is quite slow, so you do want to actually maybe kind of like move it ahead a little bit. So let's see what I did there. I kind of moved it forward on the grid. And then you're gonna want to get rid of this overlap because the overlap's gonna get muddy. Let's just take all of this. I thought I did that, but apparently I didn't. I need to move all of it forward a little bit. And again, just make sure that there's no heavy overlap happening. You also, like right here, you can see that there's space. You don't want space either, because that's gonna like re-articulate that, and that's gonna sound kind of weird. So this reverb is gonna help kind of mask a little bit of the unrealness of it, because that doesn't sound particularly great to me. Like that sounds like da 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 da. It doesn't really sound like how a real string player would do this. So let's. But as we add layers, it's going to sound more and more realistic. Okay, so then I'm gonna add in that second violin there. So the first violin is playing octave Cs. I'm gonna have the second violins do octaves on G. So we're gonna turn everything down here, make some space. 2, 3, 4. That's kind of weird. So what I'm gonna do is make it so that octave G changes to something different that second time. We'll see how that sounds. Cool. So just need to kind of, that's an expression issue. So we can go into here to the automation. Now when we add this cello, that low end is going to add so much, it's going to be great. Cool. So that sounds pretty good. Okay, so what I'm doing in here is I'm going into the automation within the MIDI, okay, into the piano roll. So what you can do is hit E on the keyboard, or just go to your piano roll. And then you can open that up by going to this tab right here. You can show or hide your automation. You can go in and control which it is. So modulation is going to be our control for dynamic. So I'm making all these changes within here. This is basically the hub of how I'm going to add, not articulation, but dynamic going in. Boom. So that's a little bit more of a serious kind of a, more of a wash. I didn't end up actually using the double bass, but here's how that would sound if I decided to just kind of double what the bass was doing with the cello. I would actually take this down the octave. Just add that depth. Okay, so that's something that's in more of that solemn, somber kind of vein. This is where cheaper products are going to work really well. If this was maybe something that was more cinematic, something that was more action, let's actually go ahead and, nope, I don't want to just delete all that. Let's just start over here and create something new that's a little more like, a little more action kind of driving. So what I'm going to do is just kind of open up a loop from Damage. Let's just call this Damage to kind of give us some inspiration. And then I'm going to show you how I could use this to create something that's more epic and more cinematic. So this is just Damage by Native Instruments. This is super epic. All right, so the first thing we need to do is up the tempo. Let's do like 120, something like that. Yeah, baby. 3, 4. Cool. So something just like that. Let's add just a little bit of reverb. Let's just make sure that's quantized. That's pretty dope. I like that. So this is not just to get y'all sold on Damage, but Damage is awesome. I love it. It is the easiest thing in the world to use to just get these massive percussive deals going on. Okay, so let's just like figure something out. We're gonna wanna change our articulation. I'm gonna do spiccato. Dun, 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 dun. You know what? Let's make our violin 1 is going to do something a little more like ya da 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 da. And then our violin 2, we're going to do something a little more epic with. And then same thing with this other stuff. We'll do spiccato, spiccato. I'm going to keep the double bass as it is. Okay, so let's just do this like. There we go. There we go, and then we'll kind of like loop that. Yeah, I like that, that's cool. Just like that. Except I need to make sure this is 16th notes. We're gonna need to turn damage down for sure. Actually, we could turn everything else up. Then we can just go in here and fix it. And there we go, we've got that. Let's just loop it, join that. Let's do the exact same thing with the studio violins this time. Boom, just like that. I think that was a pretty solid performance. All right, let's do cellos. There we go. Cool, that's cool. And again, we're just gonna, let's copy that all over. Again, I'm trying to do this as fast as possible. Okay, so I've got everything recorded except for the studio violins. Let's just kind of listen to how this is all sounding. All right, so I need to make sure I have sustain. There we go. We'll call that. And then what I can do here, since I played that in octaves, I am going to need to kind of mess with the modulation a little bit more to make this a much more expressive. So I want this to be ya da 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 da, and then we'll kind of crescendo into that. Let's see. All right, so I need to do this a little more. All right, I'm gonna have to make this a lot more dramatic. So one of the things you want to do is not make it like straight V's. You want to kind of arch it a little bit. So actually what I'm going to do the automated curve tool. Oops. Nope, nope. Nope. Come on. This is not what I want. Come on, there we go. Don't want that space as much. So let's bring that down. Just make this really dynamic. Yeah. I think that's maybe a little too much. Let's do that. It's also a little bit too much. Let's just try that, see how that's. So this curve tool is really awesome, I love it. So that whole thing could be a decrescendo. And then it could crescendo upward. And then kind of like plateau, and then go up, and then plateau, and then come back down. Could bring that down even more, I think. And then bring that up to finish it out. Ah. All right, let's start from the top. Cool. So there you go. That's how you would do this just using Logic. Now what I want to do is just show you a little bit of a comparison between Logic and between the Session Strings Pro and East-West Quantum Leap, just to kind of give you a little bit of sense. So I'm going to take this exact same action sequence here, and we're going to go ahead and do it with Session Strings Pro first, and then we'll do it with Logic or East-West Quantum Leap next. So I'm going to go ahead and do this as quickly as possible. So we want to open up Contact, Violin 1, and I'm going to copy that over. So this will be Violin 2, copy, copy, viola, native instruments, cello, native instruments. So staccato actually works a little better than spiccato for native instruments. I'm not going to show you the difference for this video, but just so you know. Now, I'm not doing anything within native instruments as far as reverb goes, but I am going to go ahead and send it to the same reverb that you are hearing within the other instruments. So I'm going to send them bus 3 and bus 4. So let's open up my mixer here. Let's see. Bus 3. Bus 4. Okay, so that way we can get a comparable feel, and I'm going to kind of pan things out the same, so that's also comparable. So let's just copy all of this here. Name. There we go. I don't think I had done double bass yet. Okay, cool. All that's good. Okay, so I believe. Okay, so the modulation is reacting a lot differently within native instruments, so I'm gonna have to make these a lot less dramatic. Oh, that's also why. I have octaves going, and within the legato patch, you cannot do that. So I'm gonna do accent instead. Again, I think it's just a little bit too much articulation. So each one's going to be different in how it's going to need you to so even then the accent patch is maybe not the best one. Let's just do sustain. Not a huge. Okay, so same thing here. I am going to increase the velocity significantly. There we go. That's going to sound a lot better. Okay, now there we go. So this is going to be Native Instruments, Session Strings Pro, modified to better fit the patch. Okay, now let's do a comparison again to the studio strings. I mean, take your pick. You can make each one of these work. So then finally, I'm going to go ahead and do East-West Quantum Leap. All right, so now let's compare. So the volume-wise, this sounds a little quieter to me, but that is something you can easily boost. Okay, now again, let's compare that to what we started with. One last time, East-West Quantum Leap. If I had more time for this video, I would probably make more changes to the East-West ones to make it sound a little better. The main thing is though that the East-West is going to sound way more rich and full and has more depth to it. East-West is also, it takes way more time to make them sound super great. So the thing that I hear listening to this, East-West, a lot more rich and full. And then the studio violin strings from Logic have a lot more top end. Piper, it's okay. There's a little more top end. And then Native Instruments is somewhere in the middle to me. So really the point of this video though is to show you that you can get really great results from the Logic Pro plugin by itself. So obviously if you want to go out and buy professional tools and libraries, you certainly can do that. But really the point of this video is you can absolutely 100% make do with what you're doing with just the Logic plugins. One of the things that I do, and I'm actually getting ready to do this, I'm going to be releasing a video in the next week or two that demonstrates this, is layering a live string player over top of the sampled instruments to add more realism, add more depth. And so I'm going to be putting out a video showing you how you can use one string player live to emulate an orchestra, and you do that by layering in samples. I'm going to be doing that with the Logic strings. That's the whole purpose I got into this in the first place. So you can certainly check that video out later. If this video was helpful to you, make sure you subscribe. I've got plenty of other videos you can check out in the meantime, and I'm really excited for some of the videos that are going to be coming out here really soon. You can also check out my website, nathanjlarsen.com, where if you're wanting to learn more about home studio production, that's what I do, help people out in that vein. I'll be more than happy to see if I can help you in that way.